Hello my loves and welcome back to High Vibe Heels. In this video we are talking all about act development for a burlesque performance, for a heels performance. It doesn't matter, this process applies to both. And in the last video we talked about creating your burlesque alter ego, coming up with your burlesque persona, and in this video we're going to talk about, of course, how we can incorporate that into creating an act, to creating choreography, a storyline. There are so many things that go into act development that not a lot of people realize go into creating a burlesque act. It's not just a dance performance. This is one of the reasons why I love burlesque so much. It's so intentional. There's so much thought and time and energy and effort and blood and sweat and tears that goes into this art form, and that's what makes it so magical. And in this video, I'm spilling all the tea on how you can create an iconic burlesque performance. I'm going to be giving you some journal prompts in this video, just like I did for the last one. So feel free to do this after the video. You can just jot down the different journal prompts that I give you and come back to them after we finish chatting, or you can pause the video after each one and journal in time with me, whatever works best for you. But the first thing that you want to think about when it comes to your performance is what type of performer you are. We need to take a lot of things into consideration: your past experience, the type of dance that you feel the most confident in, your persona, all the things. So the first thing that we want to journal about is what our strengths are and what makes us unique. These are the things that are going to help you stand out. So for me specifically, I came from a ballroom background, and so I do incorporate some ballroom. I also am, again, really good at visuals and creating an aesthetic, so I use that to my advantage. I'm really good at telling a storyline throughout my performances. So those are all things that I added to my strengths and things that make me unique. Is it your technique that makes you stand out? Is it your comedy? Are you really good at tricks and floor work? Are you a really fast and upbeat performer? Do you like to take things slower? How does your background, the training, the experiences that you had in the past impact who you're going to be as a performer? Using these strengths instead of conforming to what you think burlesque is supposed to be or performers that you've seen in the past is going to help you stand out, because there are a lot of performers that do things the same way, and I just personally, I don't love that. I want to be unique. I want to stand out. And especially for me, like, I combine heels and burlesque in all of my pieces because I love adding the dance element. Some people are very focused on classic striptease, and that is great, but I like morphing the two together, and I feel like that does really help my routines to stand out. So whatever that is for you, make sure you jot those things down. You can also think about what acts you haven't seen done in your area. So burlesque is definitely a smaller community here than in Salt Lake City, where I first started with burlesque, and it's a different scene here. It is a lot of like classic striptease or comedy. And so again, I brought something unique to this space. So kind of like have a gaze at what's going on around you and see how you can bring something unique to the table. This will also help you get into the door with venues, with producers a lot faster. And then decide what type of spaces you want to perform in. This one is really important for me because I'm very sensitive to people's energy. I'm very sensitive to my environment. You're probably not going to catch me performing in a dingy bar that I feel like is very sticky and there's a lot of like giant men with tattoos. Probably not going to be me performing there. Other people, that might totally be their vibe and that's where they thrive. I know a lot of people love like a country bar aesthetic, and they have a lot of fringe and cowgirl hats and things in their routine, so that's very much their aesthetic and their vibe. For myself, I love a glamorous vibe for my performances, so I look for the speakeasies, I look for the luxurious bars and restaurants, or even on like a stage in a theater. That's my type of performance space, and this is all just really personal to you and where you want to perform, and also taking into account the type of people that are going to be in those venues, and if you feel comfortable with that, or if you want to alter where you're performing just to kind of like protect yourself and protect your energy. Once we've done this, then we want to craft our concept, and I feel like the first step to crafting your concept for your act is finding inspiration. I love finding inspiration. Catch me on YouTube, catch me on Instagram, all over the dance videos, all over the burlesque community, the heels community. finding inspiration and saving things that I enjoy, or saving clips of things that I enjoy. Inspiration will hit me at the most random times. Maybe I'm even on like an interior designer's Instagram and I see something in the background that I'm like, oh my God, that would be so cool in an act. Or I hear a certain sound on Instagram and I'm like, this is a whole concept for an act. Now, inspiration and finding that like idea for your concept is not something that you can necessarily force. So if nothing's coming to you, give it some space, give it time. I remember when I was coming up with the idea for Dreamland, I came up with the idea for my dream laying in bed, which was like so perfectly on theme. And that's how I came up with my concept. And then I don't even know how I came up with my concept for this round of Dreamland, because we've had 2 at this point and my routine is very different this time than my routine was last time, and my overall theme for my dream is very different. And that just came to me in the most random time. I think maybe it was like around Halloween or something, where there's a lot of like vampires and kind of more dark things going on in the creative space. I feel like that's when I got the idea for my current dream, because my current dream for Dreamland is very like dark, and yeah, I can't say anything else. I don't want to give anything away, but it is completely different than other acts that I've done in the past, and that's because I just had a spark of inspiration. Also, I tend to get a lot of inspo in the shower when I don't have like a podcast or anything on, and I can really sit with my own thoughts. So it might come to you in a random moment. Just be open to downloads coming through. Keep record of everything. So even if it seems really weird, even if it seems like, do I really think I'm going to use this idea? Put it in your notes app, title it Act Ideas, or whatever it is that you want to title it, that you can remember how to find it in your notes app, and just keep track of everything. If it's a song, if it's a concept, make sure that you're kind of stashing those ideas, because maybe you've put on a couple acts at this point and you feel a little bit like you don't have any creative juice left. You can always go back to this note in your notes app and rediscover something that maybe you've saved in the past. So often if I hear a song that I like out and about, I will Shazam it on my phone. I use Shazam always to find out what the song is that's playing, if it's on a movie or things like that, or if I think of a certain phrase or any type of concept, it's going right into my notes app. Once you've picked an overall concept for your dream. So for example, the first time that we did Dreamland, my concept was the heartbreak dream. So I knew that I wanted to do a dream about heartbreak, and at this point I already knew the song that I wanted to use, which was Heartbreak Hotel by Elvis. I love performing to Elvis. I have performed twice to 2 different Elvis songs at this point, and I love him. I'm so inspired by him, and so that song kind of created the entire vision for my dream. So I feel like the song is a great place to start once you've kind of come up with a concept, and then from there it's time to craft the rest of your vision, the rest of your act. So we have concept, we have music, we have costume, and we have choreography. I feel like once you have your concept, once you have your music, kind of start to think about your costume before the choreography, because often your choreography is going to involve some sort of striptease, taking things off. So you need to have an idea of what type of at least clothing pieces you're using. Are you using a corset? Are you using stockings? Are you taking off gloves? That is, of course, going to impact your choreography. So I get all of my costume inspo from other performers that I've seen, or on Pinterest. Again, going back to your board that has all of the elements of your burlesque persona is going to help you picking out at least the type of clothing pieces that your costume is going to have. And then once you kind of have an idea of that, it's time to start on your choreography. So what I do when I start choreographing a piece is, of course, I usually have a bunch of inspo saved of just like different dance videos or different like burlesque acts that I've seen in the past, and I just watch a bunch of different things before I start choreographing. That way I have some like juices flowing and some inspo flowing, because often if I just start choreographing from nothing in my brain, it's really hard for me. So I like to get inspired and then just put it away for the rest of the time, because you want to get inspired, but you do not want to copy. You do not want to plagiarize other people's choreography. That is a huge no. And so many times I have people coming to me asking me if they can use my choreography for acts, and I say yes, but that is something that you have to pay for. So even if you have this membership or something else and you've learned choreography, you don't want to take other people's choreography and use it as your own that is cheating and plagiarizing. You want to either offer them compensation for their choreography and they will give you a rate. So for me, if I've created a piece of choreography here in the membership and someone wants to use it, I have a fee that I send over and they either say yes or no. So that is the only way that you can use other people's choreography. And even sometimes people don't want you to use their choreo, so they will just say, no, that's not something I'm comfortable with. So you just kind of have to expect that. And honestly, I personally think the best ideas come from when you create them yourself, when you create the choreography yourself, or you hire someone to create custom choreography for you. I have a few of my dancers in Dreamland who have done that with me, and that's really fun because it's a collaborative process. We can brainstorm ideas together. You kind of have someone to help bring your vision to life. And I love that aspect of my job. I love helping people come up with choreography and concepts and costumes and all the things. So you can always reach out to me to work with me on that if you'd like. But I set the stage for the day that I am working on my choreography. So I will light some candles, some incense, I will put on some music, whether it's the song that I'm using or not, and I will just like start to move, get into the vibe, do a little improv. I feel like that, just starting to get my body moving, is a great way to start coming up with choreography. Or maybe you've already kind of had an idea of what you want to do. Go over that with the music, see if it's gonna work, see if it matches the storyline that you're telling. The storyline is a great way to start coming up with movement because you kind of have this beginning, middle, and end. So maybe at the beginning, your movement's a little bit slower, then maybe in the middle, you do some floor work, and then at the end, you have this really big crescendo. Or maybe at the beginning, you start with choreography, then you do striptease, then again, you have this big crescendo or ending or way to finalize your storyline. There are just so many ways that you can do this process, but I tend to start from the beginning in my choreography and work my way down. Some people like starting in the middle of the piece. My brain does not work that way. I start at the beginning and work my way towards the end. You also kind of want to have an idea of the space that you're performing in. So this is really helpful if you've already booked a gig or if you have a place in mind that you know you want to perform. You want to visualize that space, because the thing with burlesque performances is that often the space is not going to be just like a stage. It's going to be a few aisles. It's going to be a restaurant. It's going to be a tiny, tiny stage with maybe some space in front of the stage to move. Maybe there's a pole in the middle of the stage that you have to work around. Like, there are so many different elements that you want to think about. And so the worst thing that you could do is create this big piece of choreography that is just designed for one space. You kind of have to be flexible in this process of act development because you might potentially be performing this routine in various different venues, and so you just have to be prepared for that. So you want to freestyle to your music, maybe come up with some moves that you want to do, and then play around with your costume pieces, how you're potentially going to remove those pieces. Are you going to have props? How are those props going to be incorporated? Where are the props going to be placed on the stage? Those are the different elements that you want to think about. And then you go through and you fill the gaps with some stillness, with some characterization and performance. This is a huge mistake that newbie burlesque performers make, including myself. I have made this mistake, is going so fast the whole time and not giving pause, not giving time for the audience to soak you in. That is the best part about burlesque. And the people that have moments of stillness and they just have a little wink at the audience or play with someone in the audience, those are the best performers in my opinion. And so you really want to make sure that you're not taking up the entire song with a bunch of movement and a bunch of impressive moves and tricks. You want to fill in the gaps with the tease and with some stillness. Musicality is really important when it comes to burlesque performances. So I love a burlesque performance that is very much hitting these notes in the music that maybe as an audience member you would never notice, but the performer is highlighting those things with her hips, with her shimmies, with her clothing pieces. If there's a big bass in the background or a drum beat in the background, you're highlighting that, you're accentuating that. Choosing music that really has a lot to work with and a lot to play with is going to be really helpful. And then of course your costume is such a big element of this. It's going to help kind of create the entire vision for your storyline. So again, like I said, you can kind of have an idea, okay, I'm gonna remove a jacket, I'm gonna remove a hat, I'm gonna remove gloves. And then once you're deeper into the process, you can start to pick out those exact things and pick them out in a way that you know is going to tell the storyline. So for me and my heartbreak hotel dream, I had a big black leather trench coat on. I rhinestoned a black hat that looked like Christina Aguilera's hat in Burlesque. And so I walk on the stage very moody, very sad. I'm checking into Heartbreak Hotel. And then I kind of like realized that I don't need no man to complete me. And I start taking off all of my clothes and everything like that. And so underneath the black, the moodiness, the sadness was my Layla Lavender outfit. I will include a photo of it on the screen for you.
Well, since my baby left me, well, I down at the end of lonely street, that Heartbreak Hotel belongs. It's so lonely, make it die. The death clerks dressed in black. Well, they've been so long on the street, they'll never look back and think.
And my routine really told the story of emerging from heartbreak, from the darkness, into your boldest, brightest, most magnificent self. And I did that through my costuming, through the way that I moved my body, through the reveal of my Layla Lavender sparkly outfit underneath. So there's so many ways that you can really describe your storyline, your intention through your costuming, through your choreography, through your music, and then of course through any props that you use. So I have a lot of props in my upcoming piece for Dreamland, and using props, it takes a lot of practice. So you just really want to make sure that whatever it is that you're doing in your routine, removing props, costumes, that you are practicing with them over and over and over again, and that you feel so confident with all the moving pieces of your routine before you perform them. And even when you perform them, you're gonna find that there's things that didn't work and that there's things that maybe go wrong. And that's just going to happen in every routine. So I would say do not put the expectation on yourself that the first time you go out and perform this act, it's gonna be perfect. That's why it's an act. It's not just a burlesque routine that you perform one time. Burlesque performers, we continue to recycle our routines and make them better and better and better, because often we're not performing in front of the same group of people multiple times. So that's something to think about as well. You're gonna have time to build onto this act and to make it even better. But that's why you do want to love your concept, your costume, your storyline, because it is something that you will be working on for a while. So try not to choose like a song that you feel like is going to go out of popularity in a few months, or you know, something that you're like really obsessed with right now, but you feel like you couldn't see yourself doing it for a long time. Unfortunately, that's not typically how burlesque works. Otherwise, you're going to be investing so much time in costumes and choreography to continuously change them. It's gonna be quite pricey. So you want to find something that you really love, a concept, a storyline, an act that you can see yourself performing for many gigs to come. So like I said, a few newbie mistakes that people make are going too fast, over choreographing your piece. Honestly, like simple is better when it comes to burlesque. So even if you have some wow moments, you want to balance those moments out with slower moments. Another thing that's a big mistake is if you have a prop, not calling back to that prop towards the end of your routine. So if you just have a prop and you use it and then you set it aside, but it is still visible on the stage, people are going to be thinking about what you're going to do with that prop. So you either want to use that prop again or get rid of it that way that people aren't thinking about it. Not utilizing the full space or the stage is a big thing that newcomers often do, just performing in a small area. You want to take up space as a performer. You want to really move about the space freely. That's why it's good to like practice in different spaces, maybe of your home where you've got like a table or you've got things that you have to work around. That's really gonna help you feel more comfortable in spaces that aren't your like typical dance spaces. Another newcomer mistake that people do is not interacting with the audience. And as a burlesque performer, your job is to entertain and to tease, and interacting with the audience is one of the best ways to do that. And someone who does this so well is Ivana DeLune. She plays with her audience, she teases her audience, she makes fun of her audience. It is so funny. She just had a video that she posted on Instagram where she's like trying to get the audience to take her glove off, and she's teasing everyone in the audience, and it's so cute. And that's just such a great way to create those moments of interaction and acknowledge the audience looking at you, looking at them. Like, that's super, super powerful, instead of just like staring past your audience and almost like performing for yourself. Burlesque is the art of tease, it is the art of storytelling, and that interaction is key. So that is it, my loves. That is the process from the creation of your act to coming up with your music, to coming up with your costume and your choreography. I hope this helped you. I hope you feel very inspired and motivated to go out there and build your first act. And I cannot wait to see what you babes come up with. As always, if you create an act, I would love for you to tag me or send it to me so that I can see what you've come up with. And also, if you do need a little bit of help coming up with your act, coming up with your choreography, I'm always available for private lesson bookings. We can do them in person or over Zoom, and I can help you come up with your entire concept, your costume, and everything for your act. I also just uploaded a burlesque performer favorites video to YouTube that includes all of my favorite like costume pieces, rhinestones, makeup that I use for shows. So as you get into performing, you're going to see that there's a lot of trial and error when it comes to some of these elements being a performer. So this video kind of links a lot of my favorites, like the type of heels that I wear, the type of feather boas that I use. And so I will make sure to link that below for you babes so you can go check that out as you are taking on this new year of performing. I'm wishing you babes all the best. I know you're absolutely gonna kill it, and I will see you in the next video. Mwah!